So let's talk about developing your plan. Basically, we know we have goals. We know that, we kind of have our priorities in place. We've established some values. We've got guardrails. But how are we going to get from where we are to where we want to be? Well, the easiest place to start is for us to think about the things that we do every day in our business and the fact that this isn't very different at all, right? When somebody comes to you to be a client, really we're doing the same thing. We're helping them get from where they are to where they want to be in some given time frame. Now, maybe that's a 6-week challenge, maybe that's an annual plan, but we're helping them really build a plan. Now, how does that work for us? Well, first we have to establish where we want to go. We have to establish what those goals are. Well, we've already done that. We've already talked about, what your goals are. Now, we're going to probably have to break those down a little bit further, but I'll get into that in a moment. Now, once we have that, we have to backtrack. We have to look at where we are now. Now, in a training business, we do that by doing an assessment or a screen. We're establishing a starting point so we know how to develop the appropriate plan that's going to get somebody to where they want to go. So, really, this is no different. This is no different at all. If we say, hey, I want to build a business that is generating $25,000 a month in recurring revenue, and currently we're doing $15,000 a month, well, we know, okay, during this time frame, let's say that this is an annual plan, we need to increase by $10,000 a month. We have to assume there's going to be a little bit of attrition, so realistically we probably need to sell $12,000 or $13,000 a month in recurring revenue. We can break that down by month, and over a 12-month span, maybe that's increasing that monthly recurring revenue by $1,000 a month. So you see, we're just breaking it down what we need to do month by month. And then our job then in constructing the plan is to reverse engineer how we're going to achieve that $1,000 a month increase. It's no different. It's no different than the way that you would be constructing a training program for a client. It follows the same kind of methodology, the big overarching methodology, if you will. Not once we get into the granular detail, but same framework. In fact, so much of what I talk about is things that I've taken from my time as a baseball coach, as a college strength coach, as a fitness professional, and looked at how there were connections, links to things that work from an entrepreneurial perspective. So that's the way that I want you to think about this. So it's not this big ambiguous thing that you feel like is daunting or different. You're creating a plan each and every week for clients that you work with. This is the same thing. All right, so let's go ahead and start by thinking in terms of what's our annual goal? What's our annual kind of big picture plan? What is a realistic target that we want to achieve, but it's still aggressive? It's something that is going to take us changing behaviors, changing actions, doing things a little bit differently so we can get a better and different outcome. So we start by looking at where we want to go 12 months from now. For me, beyond 12 months, it starts to get a little bit vague, right? It's hard to predict much beyond that because things change so much, right? The marketplace changes so much that I think 12 months is a nice, clear point that we can pretty much forecast what a lot of things are going to look like then. But once we start to look at 3 and 5 year things, I think those are they're important to have kind of general ideas, but it's hard to get really specific. So 12 months out, what's our goal? Now, you need to reverse that down and break that down into one of 3 kind of time frames in my mind. I use 100-day sprints. So that's an easy one for me because really what I like to do throughout the course of the year when I'm developing a plan is have a 100-day sprint earlier in the year, have a 100-day sprint that starts about the time school goes back into session, and then during the time school is out, I kind of back off a little bit. It's not that I'm running on cruise control, it's just I'm not pushing as aggressively. During the window from around Thanksgiving to New Year, same thing. A lot of that time spent just working on serving the people that I already have in place, planning the next phase, but it's not as aggressive. So I use 100-day blocks, and you could easily fit in 3 100-day blocks in the year and still have 2 months of kind of active recovery time, if you will, if we want to think of this as kind of an interval way to approach business. Another way to approach planning is 90-day blocks. So a lot of people do just quarter, 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 quarter. And, that's a very simple way to look at business planning as well. The third option is kind of what we do in the Producer Challenge, where we're looking at a 6-week plan, no different than what you would do with a transformation contest, where we're setting things out. Some people need that short-term window to maintain focus. Other people, they're okay for the 90-day plan. They're okay for the 100-day plan. The 100-day plan for me works really well because I'm trying to achieve multiple things at once, and so I kind of rotate what my emphasis is during that time frame. But which one of those blocks is up to you. Figure out, okay, what can I accomplish in the next 100 days, 90 days, or 6 weeks that will move me towards that 1-year goal? So we're setting kind of what we might call as milestones or benchmarks or short-term goals that all kind of have that building block approach to get to our bigger target, that bigger goal. So, all right, so we've got that in place. Now, a simple, like an example for that might be if the goal was to increase our EFT by $10,000 over the next year, we know that we're going to have a gross EFT bump of $12,000 just to accommodate any attrition. So if we're using this as like a 90-day sprint, then realistically, we can't set our target for much less than about $3,000 in that 90 days, right? Because 4 blocks at $3,000 will get us to that target. I mean, so it's simple math. You understand how that works. We can do that for about anything, right? We can do that for about anything that we set out. Number of clients, improved retention numbers, increased EFT, increased revenue, increased personal income, or once we get into the personal stuff too. You can do things like what your workload is. If you want to train 10 less hours a week, and maybe currently you're training 25 hours a week, and then you're spending the rest of your time on tasks as an owner or manager, well, you ultimately maybe want to get that down to 15. Well, you're not going to do that all at once, but can we go ahead and chop off 3-4 hours a week over the next 90 days or 6 weeks or something like that? So that's how that's going to work. Now, once we have that in place, we need to look at what our weekly and then daily tasks are going to be to move us towards that. Because ultimately what happens so much of the time is we set these goals out here, but then we don't change our weekly or daily behaviors. We don't plan any differently. We don't do anything in a different fashion than the way that we normally have approached things. So, for me, what I do is I plan Sunday night what I'm trying to accomplish in the week ahead. And I'm going to pick, 2, 3, no more than 4 kind of bigger tasks for the week that I'm trying to accomplish. And then I'm going to allocate time each day for those things. Maybe it's not a lot of time. Maybe it's just an hour. Maybe some days I don't even have that. Maybe it's just a half an hour. But I have to treat my own goals with the same urgency, the same care, the same diligence that I would treat my clients' goals. So if I can block an hour off to train a client or a group of clients, then I can certainly block an hour off to work on my goals. So if we do that, let's say that from from an increase in EFT standpoint, we know that some of the tasks we're going to have to accomplish might be setting up a referral promotion or running Facebook ads or getting on the phone or doing success sessions. Well, we just have to basically allocate what we're going to do in the upcoming week and make time for it on a daily basis. If we plan that way, we're not going to have any problem making things happen, making changes in our business. But if we want to achieve things, we have to be proactive about it. It's not going to just come to us, okay? We can't be reactive when we're developing our plan. It's just not an option because there are always going to be people that are going to come to you and say, look, solve this problem for me, do this for me, and before you know it, you're helping everybody achieve their goals, but you're not achieving any of yours. So that's how we want to kind of reverse engineer this down to the daily basis. So let's think about how we're realistically going to have success. Well, once we get into the short-term goal phase, the 100-day, 90-day, or even 6-week block, for me, I tend to try to set 4 to 6 goals, rocks, targets, whatever you want to call them, and always having a blend of professional and personal. Now, I'm not saying they always have to be equal. If you've got 6, it might be 4 of one and 2 of another. It might be 3 and 3, up to you. But I'm never going to ignore my personal goals because I'm building this business to serve me professionally and personally. So there's always going to be some blend. Now, there's going to be some ebb and flow depending on what I've been doing recently, how the balance of how I'm moving towards those goals or accomplishing those goals has been up to this point. But, there might be a goal of putting money away for retirement personally, or of adding a date night, or spending time with family, going on a vacation. But then on the flip side, there's going to be stuff like revenue, profit, personal income, number of clients, improved retention, adding a staff member, all those things. Now, the key to this is understanding that in many cases, less is more. Having a big to-do list is not some, precursor to accomplishment. Better to pick out 4 to 6 important things, knowing you're still going to have to run the daily operations of your business while we're working on the business. So think about all the daily things that you have to do in the business to keep it moving. And then these 4 to 6 things are going to be on the business tasks or personal tasks to move you forward. So 4 to 6, combining personal and professional, and accept the fact that some other things, maybe you're not going to make progress on this quarter. You're not going to lose ground, but maybe you're not going to make progress on this quarter or this 6 weeks or whatever else. But they can go into the next block or the next block. Okay, so just because you've got a dozen things that you're trying to accomplish in the next 12 months, not all of them are going to be accomplished in the next 12 weeks. We accept that. We're going to be a lot better off than trying to take up a lot of time here and there, and before we know it, we never get anything done. It's like having way too many windows open on your computer. It slows everything down. So let's knock off some tasks, move on to the next one. Finally, once we've established that blend of personal and professional goals, we've got to figure out how we're going to keep score, because we all need momentum. We all need to know that we're making progress. We all need to know how we're doing relative to where we want to go, so we can course correct if we need to, or we can say, hey, okay, I've knocked that off. I'm done with that one. Do I want to push beyond that, or do I want to add a different goal to the list? So how are you going to keep score? Now, some of it's really obvious, right? Like some of it, increase in EFT, number of clients. We just have to track that so we can have a pace. We can say, well, hey, I wanted to add 40 new clients in the next 100 days. Well, we're 20 days in and we've already added 25 clients. So we're ahead of pace. Let's keep doing what we're doing to get there, and then we'll decide if we want to go beyond that or move that task on to something, replace that with something else. But, if we're talking about retention, how are we going to keep score? Are we going to measure it monthly? Or are we going to do something a little bit different? We just have to have kind of this benchmark to see where we are relative to where we want to be, because that keeps us motivated and it gives us feedback. It tells us how we want to approach things to see that we're having success. Now, you may not be a fan of scale weight or anything like that, but I know that one of my long-term clients, Sam Bakhtiar, has built the CAMP Transformation Centers, and they've built this off this lose 20 pounds in 6-week challenge. One of the things they do that's been really, really powerful is they have their clients weigh in each week. Whether or not you like the whole weigh-in thing or not is completely irrelevant. The people that signed on wanted to achieve a 20-pound weight loss. Well, they know in 6 weeks, that's not going to magically happen in week 5, right? So what they do is they weigh in people each week to see where they are and say, okay, well, how do we course correct? How do we measure our progress? How do we make amendments if we need to? What do we need to change? And, it's just feedback. And we're all going to be better with feedback. So keep that in mind. Have some simple scoreboard. Now, I don't think you need this, 25-line long dashboard. I think that's overkill because we're talking about measuring our progress towards 4 or 6 goals. So, what's the simplest way that you can measure tangible progress towards those goals? We're always looking for simpler. Simpler is better because it allows us to stay on track and be more consistent. So that's how we're going to develop our plan. I know I threw a lot of different things at you in this video, but frankly, it's no different than you designing a training plan for a client, right? We're not just trying to keep them busy. We're not just giving them a workout. We're helping them move from point A to point B. That's the same thing we're trying to accomplish here.